denominator between two or maybe three fractions. And this particular one, we have 4, we have 20, and 2 is our denominators. Well, 2 and 4 will both divide into 20, so we can simply say our least common denominator is 20. Not too hard. The next problem, we have 15, 10, and 20. Still, we could just count by 20s until we find something that 10 and 15 will both divide into. Well, 15 won't divide into 20 evenly, so what's the next multiple of 40 is 40. 15 won't divide into 40 evenly, so the next one is 60. And then we finally find one. Hey, 60 is divisible by 15, so our least common denominator is 60. Not too bad. Let's move on to one maybe just a little bit harder, but this time I want to show you a different way to do it. 8 and 14, most people can find a least common denominator. I want to start with a small one. If we write 8 and 14 down, and over here on the left, draw an L under it, and we're going to be looking for the common prime numbers, common prime factors that these two numbers have, or any two numbers have. In this case, it's only two numbers. So in this case, we have 2. 2 times 4 would be 8. 2 times 7 would be 14. And we keep doing this L until we find nothing else that will divide into any two of the numbers on the bottom. Once we're done, we multiply everything along the outside, which does form an L, which in this case we call it our least common multiple. So you say 2 times 4 times 7 would be our least common multiple, or in this case our least common denominator, I should say, would be 56. Let's do another one. This time we have three numbers. We have 13, 12, and 20. Draw our L. Now look, there's not a common factor that would go into all three, but 12 and 20 have a common prime factor of 2, and used to be any prime factor they have in common. 2 times 6 is 12, and 2 times 10 is 20. And so, well, what about the 13? Well, if it won't divide in there evenly without a decimal or remainder, we simply bring it down. And we do it again because 6 and 10 both have a common factor of 2. And that leaves us 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 5 is 10. And again, 13 comes down. And we look at it again. None of the numbers on the bottom, no 2, have a common prime number. So to get our least common multiple, or our least common denominator, we would multiply all our numbers on the outside and our least common denominator would be 780 between 13, 12, and 20. Let's do another one. 15, 11, and 20. Draw your L. I don't see, let's see, oh yeah, 15 and 20 have a common prime number of 5. And some people say, well, can I use numbers that aren't prime? When you have two numbers, there's no problem, but when you have three, there's a chance you might overlook another common factor. There's a chance you'll mess a problem up. So make sure you use the prime numbers to be safe, unless you know what you're doing. So 5 times 3 is 15. It won't divide into 11, so we bring it down. 5 times 4 is 20. And that's all our factors we have. Everything else, the greatest common factor is 1 here. So we're going to multiply 5 times 3 times 11 times 4 to get our least common denominator, which is 660. Okay, 13 and 11. We come down here, we write down 13, 11, and we say, well, one thing, they're both prime, but they're relatively prime too. There's not a number that will divide into both. In other words, the greatest common factor is 1. I know it's not prime, but whenever the greatest common factor between two numbers is, or three numbers is 1, we can simply multiply the numbers together to get our least common denominator. So 143 is the smallest number that 13 and 11 both divide into without a remainder. All right, let's do 7, 13, and 20. Again, no two numbers, doesn't have to be all three, no two numbers share a common prime number. So to get to the least common multiple, or least common denominator, we can multiply 7 times 13 times 20. 1,820. Most people don't guess that. Okay, I hope this helps you find the least common multiple. Thank you.